Во време на криза, во невидени размери кои го стреса целиот свет, група на универзитетски професори, научници, банкари изготвија научната студија големата слика македонска економија на среден и долг рок. Една од клучните дилеми во оваа студија е како да се намали јазот меѓу богатите и сиромашните. Ова е повод за разговор со првиот човек на Фондацијата Фридрих Еберт, господинот Рене Schnell. Herr Schnell, am Anfang, danke, dass Sie die Einladung zum Interview angenommen haben.
Vielen Dank.
Ich stelle die Frage auf Macedonisch, Sie können auf Englisch antworten. Една од клучните дилеми која се отвара во оваа научна студија големата слика македонска економија на среден и долг рок е како да се намали јазот меѓу богатите и сиромашните, и меѓу државите и меѓу граѓаните.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the kind invitation to this interview. And I think in the question there you named right the problem that was the centerpiece of what we call the big picture of this economic agenda for North Macedonia. It is, of course, inequality, and here predominantly economic inequality. And what we've seen is, there was always economic inequality, and throughout the history, different societies came up with different justifications why this inequality exists. Some 100 years ago, in the Middle Ages, they said, "Oh, it's a divine, it's the divine power, it's the divine structure of society." Of course, now we think about these things differently, and I think what this analysis is founded on is saying, okay, this is an economic inequality that is unjustifiable as it is right now. And what we see and what we recommend in this study is that that it needs an economic agenda for investment into research and development, investment into the citizens, and to lead North Macedonia from what we call dependent market economy that is dependent on outside remittances and foreign direct investment, and leading it towards a export growth model of economy. So if I can just summarize, the picture recommends how to reduce the economic inequality that currently exists in North Macedonia is, on the one hand, that we propose an ambitious reform program to lead North Macedonia towards an export growth economy, and the second, of course, to invest in its citizens, especially and how a state can function or fostering entrepreneurship.
Господин Шлек, како во Европа и генерално, особено во Германија, се градат политики за надминување на социјалните разлики?
Well, of course, Europe in general has the success of the European project, specifically the European Union, was one of the European social welfare state. So these are social democratic. This is a social democratic reform agenda that has driven the European social welfare, let's say, state, and materialized, of course, in each country individually. So in Germany specifically, as a German political foundation, I feel compelled to speak, of course, about the German example. There are some great successes in social democratic Germany in terms of the one key is the public or state-run education. Yeah? So you have that ensures that the access from all citizens and again with the aim to reduce the inequality when it comes to access of education. And then the second, of course, is health and pension systems that the social welfare state is famous for. But the key question here is, and this is also the key question, or this is one key recommendation of the study, is how to pay for all this. And well, to quote now internet famous Dutch historian Rutger Bregman, is taxes, taxes, taxes. We need to talk about taxes, yeah. And here specifically, we need to talk about a progressive income tax. Yeah? Progressive income tax means that those who earn a lot, those who have benefited a lot from society, that society has given them an opportunity to thrive economically, that those will pay their equal share, equally to the amount that they receive in income. Yeah? And those who are less fortunate, they of course have to be less burdened by taxes. And this idea, it was introduced in North Macedonia. Unfortunately, right now its implementation is stopped, but the progressive tax reform, that really, if you ask about how this was implemented in Europe and particularly in Germany, this is the key.
Во научната студија големата слика македонската економија на среден и долг рок, меѓу другото вие ќе напишете многу граѓани на југоисточна Европа сметаат дека нивните општества се неправедни. За жал, овој впечаток само се потврдува со растечката економска нееднаквост и недостигот на транспарентна распределба на богатството во комбинација со ослабениот квалитет на јавните услуги. Ваквите мрачни перспективи натераа многумина да веруваат дека емигрирањето е единствениот разумен избор.
It is true. The situation for the citizens and the perspective is often quite dire, not just here in North Macedonia, but throughout the region. What citizens, of course, need is a perspective, and I think that is a very human experience. If you think, how can I ensure that the future and prosperity of both me, but also for my family. Yeah? And that is, of course, where a state can come in. And I think here we need to change the picture and the relation between the state and society. It needs to be redefined. Before, it's often, and here especially in the Western Balkans and part of that, of course, in North Macedonia, the state is seen something like stay out of the economy. Yeah? That's only disturbing. Yeah? But instead, I think, and here again we can our analysis is based on the thoughts of latest economic thinkers such as Mariana Mazzucato. Is no, the state can serve as an entrepreneur and can this public-private partnership where a state invests and strategically invests in certain sectors. Yeah? Is key one. I already mentioned that for North Macedonia to get out of this vicious cycle of competition for foreign direct investment through low taxes and low labor standards, you have to transform into an export growth model. And that is only achieved if the state strategically defines sectors where they will set incentives not on a individual base for specific companies, but let's say they invest strategically in research and development and creates the conditions where entrepreneurs can thrive.
Германската владеачка партија СПД го застапува концептот на државата како партнер, а не контролор. Праведност во поддршката. Колку овој концепт германски е применлив за македонската економска слика?
Well, thank you very much for the question. This gives me the opportunity. The Friedrich Ebert Foundation is a political foundation that advances the cause of social democracy, and is, of course, closely tied to the Social Democratic Party in Germany. But we're an independent political foundation. So, just to say this up front. But more to your question is. I think, of course, the situation in Germany is in various aspects is much different, right? We have a different industrial base, we have a different economic model, but actually, what touches your question, what is the role of the state? There, I think we can find similarities, and this is part of the big picture, as we call it, the study. Is here the state, the primarily function is to be independent, yeah. No favors to certain businesses, or individuals, of course, but also as a partner in saying, and that comes back to what I said before, is we need to redefine what the role of the state is here. Of course, through the history, of course, of the transition of transition in North Macedonia was one of Wild West deregulation, and I think coming from that comes the historical lesson then to say, okay, the state has to act as a partner and an impartial mediator, but as I said, as a partner for public partnership, not just regulating activities, but strategically investing in the sector in sectors of the future, such as where North Macedonia is very strong, of course, in the ICT sector.
Господине Шле, што може и што треба да се промени во идеолошката матрица да се прекине тој јаз од времето на транзицијата?
Thank you. I think that alludes what I said right at the beginning in terms of we need to understand what role plays economic and social inequality. And I think that is not just happening here in North Macedonia, but worldwide. This is a worldwide trend where economic thinkers, progressive economic thought leaders understand, well, we're sort of we're at the end of a period where inequality was justified by the understanding, well, everybody has a chance. Yeah, of course there's a wide gap between the poor and the rich, but actually everybody, the classical American tale of from rags to riches, everybody can make it. But unfortunately, that is not the case. Social mobility is very low, yeah, and here also in North Macedonia. So in order to overcome this, the ideological matrix that was before, I think there needs to be first an understanding of what role inequality speaks and what the role of the state is. And here, what North Macedonia, what we recommend is an education for the 21st century. We need right now a lot of, let's say, the economy of North Macedonia is driven by unskilled or semi-skilled work, and we need to allow the citizens through a system of modern education to, of course, obtain further and more sophisticated skills and produce values or services and goods of higher quality, then in turn will lead to a more export-driven economy.
Може ли да се зборува за успешна и праведна економија доколку нема правна сигурност и ефикасни институции кои треба да им служат на граѓаните?
No, there is no just economy and there is no just society without the reliability and certainty of the law. So the rule of law needs to be implemented, and this is a perfect example, the question how these are interlinked. So in order for businesses to thrive, there has to be transparency. Again, like coming back to the role of the state, they have to be a neutral, impartial regulator, yeah, where they see, where they don't do any favors nor malice, and through that, basically, they will create the condition where everybody has the understanding, especially in the entrepreneurship. Okay, this is an environment where I know that my not just personal but also my financial investments can thrive, and without the fear of discrimination.
Ви благодарам за гостувањето во емисијата.
Thank you very much.
Почитувани гледачи, тоа беше разговорот со првиот човек или директорот на Фондацијата Фридрих Еберт, Рене.